We're going to look at sub-Saharan African art, and then I also have a discussion on the masking ceremonies and the performative qualities of this art, and maybe some of the things they relate to in other cultures. And then also a extra credit assignment that might be offered. You'll have to look on your Canvas modules to see whether or not it's offered as an extra credit assignment, where we will copy the contemporary art version of the masking ceremonies that we see in the sound suits of Nick Cave. So let's get started. When we're talking about sub-Saharan Africa, and I'm going to have a map on a lot of these slides for you. So we're talking about this part of Africa here, this massive, massive, massive continent that has a number of different traditions in it. But the traditions that we're going to be looking at are mostly going to be here in West Africa, a little bit of Central Africa. So you can really kind of find zones in Africa. On the east side, you have an Africa that is really highly developed in trading with Arab countries and also India, which is over here. In Central Africa and South Africa, you also have really developed civilizations that are on the plains of Africa, and also have some traditions going back to the San people, nomadic types of people. And then West Africa is really integrated with European traditions and a legacy of slavery that is mostly happening in West Africa as well. Now, the grayed out areas here, these are the areas of Africa that include Egypt, and then the northern areas that have been traditionally Islamic for the last 1,500 years. So there are African and also Islamic traditions here, and also traditions that include cities like Carthage as well, and a lot of influences on Mediterranean and classical culture like the Greeks and the Romans. So into sub-Saharan Africa we go. Areas that like south of the Saharan desert like Nubia that are rich in resources, ebony, ivory, gold, incense, and leopard skins that were traded with Egypt, and a lot of raw materials that flowed back and forth between the Europeans. Europeans are going to take slaves that they are going to populate Europe and the New World with, and they are also going to take traditions in music that are going to populate other parts of the world, and in return, Africa is going to get things like bronze and weapons for fighting wars that are local. One of the most famous of the Nubian kingdoms, which would be here around a little bit north of Europe, the Nubians are ultimately going to conquer Egypt when they are a little bit on the downside of their power. They are going to rise to prominence in the 10th century BC, and while they rule Egypt, they are going to be influenced by Egyptian pyramids and build other versions of pyramids on their own that are smaller but are also steeper. Much of sub-Saharan Africa is home to hundreds of cultures. All of them have kind of animism as a way of thinking about the world. There are spirits in everything. They are dependent on extended family and extended community for survival's sake. And then also what we find is a tradition of building out of mud and clay and wood. And within these traditions, you don't find a lot of stone buildings or marble cut buildings, which is how we recognize ancient Egyptian culture and Greek culture is what's left over from their stone buildings. So because of the way that they're building, because of the harshness of the climate in a lot of places, we have a hard time finding the evidence of their civilization in the same way we can find it in other places. Nak culture is in northern Nigeria. We see it really come and flower around 1000 BC, vanishes around 300 AD in West Africa. They are producing life-size ceramics, and the ceramics are of plant and animal and human motifs, especially human heads and bodies that are nearly life-size. So they're doing really large, difficult to make ceramics. The ceramics are used as ancestor portrayals, grave markers, and also used as decorations on buildings. So they're using a coarse clay, they are carving the clay, and they are able to build kilns that are able to take on large scale projects. Stylistically, we see a lot of geometric qualities in their sculptures. We see here the triangular eyes, the half moon for the eyebrows, very stylized hair done through coiling, and a very kind of unique kind of sculpture that is going to be very influential on Europeans in the modern era. In particular, Pablo Picasso and his Cubism is going to be borrowing elements that we will find in African sculpture. Here we're seeing one of the life-size fragments of sculptures. Nak culture is right around here where Nigeria is today. This is in the western part leading to the south, the southern kind of slope into Africa. So the surfaces here have circles. You can see it has a coarseness, but is also very smooth in terms of the geometric simplicity of the shapes. Benin, also in West Africa. By 1726, we have the King Agaja of the Kingdom of Dahomey, and they are conquering coastal cities. They are known for being warriors and apprenticing boys into becoming warriors, also famous for their elite female corps, the Ahosis, and the king's wives, or the Minos, or our mothers. They are also working in selling slaves to help keep power by giving them weapons, and also keeping them with alliances with European powers, but maintaining complete autonomy on their own. In Benin art, we see, because of the trading of Benin, they're getting bronze, tin, and copper. And that tin and copper is allowing them to also make bronze. And we know that they have the ability to make kilns, to make those great ceramics that we were looking at. They also have the ability to heat tin and copper and to mold it and cast it in ways to make really great sculptures. And again, the sculptures that are reminiscent somewhat of the ceramics that we were seeing in the Nak culture, but you can tell there's also a real nice naturalism happening here too, and a great sense of patterning. Here is a pendant mask that is cut out of ivory. It is exquisitely carved and is an example of the kind of ivory that would come from teeth and tusks of giant animals. We see that ivory here in a palace altar to Ovan Ramaren. He is a Benin king, and we have brass bells at the altar. We have giant tusks at the altar. And again, the brass and the statues of the kings, all made from metallurgy. In Yoruba, we have Ife, and in Ife culture, we have Yoruban mythology. Olodumare, the supreme god, orders Obatala to create the earth But on his way, he finds palm wine, he drinks it, he becomes intoxicated, and the younger brother is going to take the three items of creation from him. He climbs down from the heavens on a chain through a handful of earth on the primordial ocean, put a cockerel on it, and then begins to scatter the earth, creating the land in which the Ife are built. So the Adoni, or the king of the Ife, claimed direct descendants from this god and is counted among the first Yoruban kings. Their kings and gods are depicted with large heads because they believe that the Ese is held in the head, and that is a inner power and energy of a person. They are developing sculptural traditions in terracotta and stone and copper alloys, brass and bronze, and are creating homages to their kings and to their symbolic cultures. So the Yoruban religion is made up of several religious beliefs. One of it is of the Itan, and a total complex of song, histories, and stories and other concepts that make up Yoruban society. Voodoo guardians of peace under Yoruba religions have evolved a robust cosmology. In brief, it holds that all human beings possess what's known as the Ayamo, destiny and fate, and are expected to eventually become one in spirit with Oldumare and Olduran, the divine creator and the source of all energy. Furthermore, the thoughts and actions of each person in Aye, the physical realm, is interacting with all living things. They believe in animism. After being consecrated as a leader, the Yoruba Oba must not reveal his face to the public. Instead, he is wearing a crown featurizing at least one stylized face depicted in beadwork, and also examples of a bird motif that has these layers of meaning in how the bird is assisting with the creation origin myths that we had kind of discussed earlier. These stylized headdresses, when they're not on the ruler, have no particular magical power. That magical power only exists when they are wearing it. Here we are seeing Arawejuai, a ruler who is seated in state in 1977. You can see he's wearing the regal robes, he's grasping a beaded staff, and he's also wearing the cone-shaped crown. His face is being hidden. You're not supposed to look at his face. And of course, the bird that is referring to the female ancestors whose power the king must draw on, known as our mothers. They are believed to transform themselves into night birds. And this is where you would find Benin culture in West Africa. West African music is significant all around the world, polyrhythmic, meaning that you have rhythms that are not all playing together but are playing independently, very similar to polyphony with the voice and the choirs in the Middle Ages. So they also have a number of different instruments, including various drums, various types of harps, something very similar to the banjo as well. And let's just take a look at what some of those polyrhythmics sound like, and a little bit of dance here as well, happening from musical families. And families are musicians, and they pass down their musical qualities to each other. If you want to see more of that, you can watch it. It's linked on the slide. I have to be careful how much music I show because you never know what might be picked up by YouTube, and then you get the video either censored or muted. This is a griot. Griots are, again, part of musical families, and they pass down history to each one of their musician progenies. And here we are looking at a griot, and they're playing a kora, which is kind of plucked like a harp. It's a 21 string instrument. So griots were typically used in disputes about history. They had a history of remembering what the actual events were in the past and did not take sides. They were simply there to get it right. There's a lot of modern African architecture. There is also some really unique African architecture. And this is the Great Friday Mosque. I think we talked about it in our architecture lecture. And here we're seeing the Great Friday Mosque in Genet. It is built entirely out of mud, rebuilt after the rains. It is a hypo-style building where there are a lot of columns, very little open space, because the tensile strength of mud will have a tendency to break and crack. We are also on the mosque seeing a very unique type of minarets here at the top of the building that are reminiscent of the giant anthills and the architecture of those giant anthills in their local environment. I think other really great art coming out of Africa are the wood sculptures. These are Dogon sculptures. We have a seated couple on the left, and Guanyu Su, mother and child, also on display. The mother is holding the child in her lap. So we are seeing how in Dogon sculpture, the roundness of the branches of the tree is not hidden in the final sculpture. They have a tubular quality to them, reminiscent of how they're being, what the material is they're being sculpted from. In the Guan or the Zhou society, we have women who are helping others who need to bear children, and they have a regal bearing, and they also wear these regal crowns or helmets as well. Nakandi figures, these are from Lower Congo before 1978. They are a carved figure done in kind of the geometric configurations and stylized more so than that Benin bronze that we saw that was very naturalistic and very realistic. These are very stylized. And what I think is interesting about the Nakandis is how they are not completed by the artist, they're completed by the person who buys them. So the person that buys them will put symbolic images like fishing nets, or they may pound nails into them, or here they've added glass into the eyes to act as mirrors to scare away evil spirits. We don't see very much sculpture like this in the Western world where they're not completely finished off by the artist. This is very different here, and one of the reasons that I like them. You can see a lot of this sculpture in Los Angeles at the Fowler Museum on the campus of UCLA. It's a free museum on the campus. Now, the masking ceremonies. We're going to really get into that with our discussions. So the spiritual agency of the masquerade involving sculpture, costume, music, and movement, it is contacting spirits to effect change. Here we're looking at Temni Nao, a masquerade from Sierra Leone. This is pictures from 1976. So this spirit is brought into the village, and as the spirit comes in, it takes away girls who are ready to become women. Probably the secrets of adulthood, including how babies are born, menstruation, things like that, the roles that women play. The girls are spirited away at night. They are taught by this figure how to become adults. And then when they go back to the village that they're from, they are now fully formed adults spiritually in terms of knowing what it is to be woman. You are going to watch a ceremony of an Ejile. This is from Nigeria. The Ejile is a mask that is worn that covers the body. You can see the dancer at the bottom of this, and his head has become a giant anthill, a giant mountain, and all of the people of the village are represented in it. While the dancer is doing prescribed dance steps to polyrhythmic music that we saw a little bit earlier, the Ejile, the masquerade, it has spiritual power that will help bring good luck to all the people who are represented. And as long as this doesn't touch the ground, the good luck will continue and remain. The Ejile, I want you to watch this whole video. Now, I'm also giving you an extra credit assignment. And the extra credit assignment is based around these 3 videos that you should watch, which are in the discussion also. This is an American artist named Nick Cave. Nick Cave teaches dance and fiber arts in Chicago, and he came up with making these suits that when you wear them make very specific sounds. And when they're making the sounds and being worn, they have that kind of magical, transformative property that we might see in the masking ceremonies. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to watch this masking ceremony here, and I'd also like for you to watch the Ejile as well. I want you to describe what you see in the videos: costumes, participation, dance, music, and then I want you to consider, is this theater? Is this art? What is this exactly? And then are these combinations of categories rather than singular categories? Then I would like you to think about what types of performances like this might be somewhat similar in the world today. I thought of Burning Man. Other students have recognized the Tet festivals. There is also another idea that I will send to you in my reply as well. So you're going to watch a little bit of this video. Here's another masking ceremony here. And this is the buffalo god here. So we've got a fiber suit. We have a mask that might be ceramic. There is a bronze bell that the buffalo is wearing. And then it has polyphonic music and rhythm in it. And then also dance moves that probably go back thousands of years. Okay, so when you're watching that, start to kind of think, like, what are we seeing here? If we take that figure and let's just say we take the costume off, does it have magic anymore? And the answer is generally no, that the magic only exists when the wearer is wearing it. Kind of like the crown we saw from the Yoruban king too, where you can't look at his face. So the outfit is made out of fibers, we have dance moves, we have music, we have a community that might be involved in call and response. So I want you to think about what you've seen. I want you to think about what this might remind you of. I would appreciate if you did the A, B, C in your answers. And then I'm giving you an extra credit assignment. I want you to take a look at Nick Cave and his sound suits. And then I want you to make a sound suit. And I want you to make a video. So I want you to make a video of either you or family or friend wearing your sound suit. It could also be your pet, but the suit has to make some sort of sound. And I want you to send me the video that shows you in the sound suit making the sound. This one was made out of Post-it notes. This one just has bells added to it. This one also has some instruments and some rattles involved in it. Here also the outfit that the cat is not really too happy to be wearing makes sounds. The bags here make a rumpling or rustling sound. I've also seen a student make a sound suit all out of balloons as well, and when they moved around, the balloons moving against each other made sounds. So I want you, for this module here, I am asking you about African art. And again, depending on the class that we're in, there'll be a discussion and there might be extra credit. You'll always have to check on your modules to make sure on that. And then if you do want to make the sound suit, here's an example in picture form. I didn't show you the videos of them actually moving and making the sounds. It's the sound making that's important for getting full credit on this. Talk to you soon. And I hope that a few of you make some sound suits.